Hello, everybody. So I am getting on full screen mode here so we can look at this as big as humanly possible. So some of you may or may not remember, my project is about farm to table. The fact that there's a huge disconnect between people shopping at farmers markets and local vendors versus shopping at supermarkets. We're in a time right now where food cannot really be trusted, especially from supermarkets. Um, Mass produce farmers are using all kinds of pesticides and stuff in our foods now. So it's kind of sad, but even your vegetables can't really be trusted anymore. And so, a great way to avoid those dangers and lack of knowledge in where your food is coming from is to shop local, because your local small farmers aren't probably utilizing all of those pesticides. And if you're anything like me, you can become friends with your farmers. You can go to their farms and see what kind of stuff they're doing and support them and support your local economy, and everybody's happy and everybody's healthy, and it's great. One great thing I learned through this project is the power of research. I started this project sort of thinking I had a solution, thinking that a newsletter and a poster series was going to be the answer to the problem. Uh, I've learned otherwise, which is great. So I really love the fact that we were sort of pushed to go into this without a solution. We're searching for the solution. It really opened me up to a better option. With that, my research, my demographic was pretty much anyone that purchases their own food. So young adults, early 20s to however old, but mostly the, working class and young professionals, people who should be taking their health into concern, and also people that are able-bodied and can get out there and do their own shopping and hit up the local farmers market here and there. With that, there was a lot of ethnographic research. There was a good bit of marketing and competitor analysis. I broke a lot of that up between the local markets and the superstores. The same with the ethnographic research. So there was kind of a divide in all of my research, sort of seeing how each side of the spectrum functions, and then finding the happy medium and how we can get people to have a convenient resource to help them shop local more. My method was the big six. I broke it down by week according to our time limit that we had. I started off with just doing more literary and marketing research. Then I got into the ethnographic, and I got to do some interviews, and then I got to break it all down and try to display it as beautifully as humanly possible. So with that, we started off with the competitor analysis. I thought it would be really important to understand the businesses before I got into, trying to fight for one side or the other. So one great thing about Northeast Florida is that we are a more warm tropical, region, but also we have seasons. So we are really in a great location to have food growing plentifully year-round. Really, there is no reason not to shop local here. I understand in some other places, in the winter, you have to do what you have to do because there's nothing growing near you. But here, that is not really the case. We have a great selection of fruits and veggies, so I feel like it's a great place to sort of study. We have an abundance of local farms all over the area, but I found the ones that were most certifiably organic, non-GMO, and also sold locally mainly. So at the local farmers markets, at the local grocers and things that, they weren't exporting their food elsewhere. So these are a lot of smaller farms, nothing big and industrial. Now, with the superstores, I had a really hard time finding where their source produce came from. And I decided to go with just searching the store brand because when you get into all of the other brands of produce that they have, you could go for days looking for information. Walmart has a brand called Marketplace that is what they put all of their produce through. I could not for the life of me find any kind of anything about where the Marketplace produce comes from. Uh, you know, it was tough. And with Target and Winn-Dixie, they don't really have, at least as far as I could find, maybe in bigger areas, I'm not sure, but at least in Northeast Florida, they do not have a produce brand. They have a lot of other in-house brands, but not specifically for produce. Now, Publix, which is, I think, more common in Florida and southern states, Publix was a little bit easier to break down and find where they came from, and I think a little bit of that had to do with the fact that Publix is a smaller chain. You know, it's not nationwide. So they are a little bit more upfront with their customers. When it came to the ethnographic research, I went to a farmer's market, which I actually do shop at farmer's markets regularly, so this wasn't really new for me. You know, the farmer's markets and even the local grocers, they're more of a social experience, even more of like I'm going to come in and get something for lunch. You know, I'm going to come grab some food. I'm going to get produce, but I might also get a sandwich because a lot of the farmers markets and local grocers have stuff like that, which is great. It's more social. People are coming back regularly, at least when it comes to buying produce. It's almost like a weekly trip. Everybody gets together and they all come get their groceries. You know, it's a great experience. Where the supermart, from what I've seen when I go there, obviously a lot of people are buying more than just produce. They're buying their household goods and things. But the people that I saw that were buying produce, a lot of them were shopping alone. A lot of them appeared to be shopping for more than one, but it was really hard to say. With that, a lot of the big grocers in our area, the supermarkets, they're not really within walking distance of anything residential. So you'd really have to have a car to get to them, where the farmers markets are closer to, you know, residential areas and like small town kind of areas, so people can get on their bike and ride down to the market, or, you know, walk up the street to the market on Sunday morning. I also put out a survey. I utilize my Facebook just because I have a wide variety of friends, and I figured it would be the easiest way to draw people in, and you know, because they're my friends, they were expected to respond and not ignore me. I got about 40 people to get into this, and just wanted to get a feel for how important people thought it was to buy local, buy organic, you know, and actually it was interesting to find that overall, a lot of people had similar opinions on how important it was to buy local and organic, whether they were buying at a supermarket or a local vendor. Now, around the time that I released this survey, I had started to decide / realize one thing marketing-wise a lot of the locals don't have that big stores do is an app. So I had decided to put in a question, you know, how likely were you to use an app? Because, you know, it seems like a very practical way to keep people connected. People always have their phones on them. You know, it's a way they can save things and have it with them constantly. So this was when I was kind of coming up with the concept of, well, what if there was a local app? With that, I also interviewed people. A lot of the people at the farmers market felt very passionately about shopping local. They felt very passionately about eating organic. A lot of them had cars, but also did a lot of walking and cycling. And when I did confront them about what would be most beneficial for them when it comes to some kind of media source, whether it be a website, social media, an app, a newsletter, you know, what do you think would be most beneficial for you to be able to keep up with the local markets? Know their availability, know what's in season, blah, blah, blah. App was the resounding yes, that would be so cool if that was a thing. So there we go, that's a pro. Same with the super shoppers. A lot of the super shoppers expressed interest in shopping local, but don't really do it as much. It seemed to be more often than not that convenience was the main concern. That's sort of what all the research is about. How do we make it convenient for them? What can we come up with that's convenient, that makes people able to go to the supermarket or the local grocer? So, yet again, app was the sort of most popular answer. A couple people said newsletter, but they were a bit older. Definitely the younger crowd thought app was the way to go. I think partially when in my research, I found a lot of websites that did sort of what I think an app could do, but they weren't very well put together and they weren't very easy to navigate. I think the design of these websites wasn't very effective, which is probably part of the reason they weren't utilized very often. There's supposed to be something here. Marketing research. Apparently it has disappeared. We're going to keep on rolling. So advertising. This is also broken down between local businesses and supermarkets. And I mean, I'm going to post this so people can kind of go through and see, but when I really broke it down as to what the supermarkets are allowed to, well, not allowed to do, what they can fund doing versus the local guys. Obviously they can have commercials, they have bigger websites, they have online stores, they have social media with millions of followers. They do have newsletters, they also have their local flyers and ads and everything else, but they have apps. Something that the local guys do not have, apps. The local guys do benefit from ads, newspapers, social media. Facebook was definitely the most popular social media method for the local guys, probably because they can have a bit more of a back and forth with their clientele. But they don't have app. They don't have an app. They don't have anything that people can constantly be connected to. They have websites, but yet again, those websites aren't super effective. They're usually not even that informative because they don't really keep them up to date. Or with the farmers markets, they don't show all the vendors. They're just like, here's a farmers market, here's when we're open, come see the vendors, but there's no information on any of the vendors on the website. So, it's kind of a mystery if you've never been there and don't really know what to expect. I interviewed some local business owners, a couple of the grocers, and a couple of the farmers from the market. Oh, goodness gracious. They all felt that their most effective means of advertisement was word of mouth and having a good connection with their customers. They all felt that way. Social media second, and also that's a great way to keep in touch with their customers. And signage. Signage was actually really important, and I never really thought of that. But even at the markets, they always put out a big sign. A lot of the local grocers will put out a big sign on the sidewalk, so when you're walking by, it kind of draws you in, which is great. But yeah, I didn't even think of that, and I hadn't heard of that until this point. With that, they all expressed interest in the concept of an app. So the app is becoming more and more of the popular choice here. Which is, obviously the direction I ended up going in for my solution at this point. Proposal, what? It's an app! Go figure. So, I guess I'm at the point with my research now where I've discovered an app is the way to go. And the way this app could work is that all the vendors and farmers that want to be involved could essentially sign up, I guess. And they would be organized in a fashion where a person from this area could download the app. They could search by grocer, market, or farm. They would also be able to utilize a schedule that kind of laid out everything. Where the different markets are, where they're, what time they're out, what time are the grocers open, what do they have. And this would be a really great thing for people to utilize as far as, I'm getting off work and I really need to buy some tomatoes because I'm going to make some spaghetti tonight. And where am I going to go to buy tomatoes? Oh, well, I'm going to open my app. Okay, well, the local grocer that sells from the local farm, they're open until 6. Perfect. They're on my way home. Like, this is how this app can be utilized. And I also thought it'd be cool to add in like a favorites. So when you find a farm or a grocer that you really enjoy, you love their product, you love what they have, or maybe they carry the best blueberries or something, you can save them, and that way you can kind of follow them and know when they're going to be around. Obviously, there's a lot more that would come into developing this app, but that is the initial concept. So at this point, I'm kind of curious how much deeper I should go into this over the next week. But overall, I feel like this project was pretty successful in really researching the issues and finding a solution. Obviously, I